The Manila Light Rail Transit System, popularly and informally known as the LRT, is a metropolitan rail system serving the Metro Manila area in the Philippines, although referred to as a light rail system because it originally used light rail vehicles. It has characteristics that make it more akin to a rapid transit system, such as high passenger throughput, exclusive right-of-way and later use of full metro rolling stock. The system is operated by the Light Rail Transit Authority, a government-owned and controlled corporation under the authority of the Department of Transportation and Communications, along with the Manila Metro Rail Transit System and Philippine National Railways commuter line. The system makes up Metro Manila's rail infrastructure. Quick and inexpensive to ride, the system serves 2.1 million passengers each day. Its 33.4 kilometers of mostly elevated route form two lines which serve 31 stations in total. Lrt Line One, also called the Green Line, opened in 1984 and travels a north-south route. Lrt Line Two, the Blue Line, was completed in 2004 and runs east-west. The original LRT One was built as a no-frills means of public transport and lacks some features and comforts, but the new LRT Two has been built with additional standards and criteria in mind, like barrier-free access. Security guards at each station conduct inspections and provide assistance. A reusable plastic magnetic ticketing system has replaced the previous token-based system, and the Flash Pass introduced as a step towards a more integrated transportation system. Many passengers who ride the system also take various forms of road-based public transport, such as buses, to and from a station to reach their intended destination. Although it aims to reduce traffic congestion and travel times in the metropolis, the transportation system has only been partially successful due to the rising number of motor vehicles and rapid urbanization. The network's expansion is set on tackling this problem. Network. The network consists of two lines: the original LRT Line One, a green line, and the more modern LRT Line Two, or blue line. The LRT One is aligned in a general north-south direction along over 17.2 kilometers of fully elevated track. From Monumento it runs south above the hustle and bustle of Rizal and Taft Avenues along grade-separated concrete viaducts, allowing exclusive right-of-way before ending in Baclaran. A four-station east-west extension along Epifanio de los Santos Avenue that will connect Monumento to the North Avenue MRT station is currently under construction, including the extension's two recently opened stations, Balintawak and Roosevelt. The LRT One has 20 stations. The LRT Two, Line 2, consists of 11 stations in a general east-west direction over 13.8 kilometers of mostly elevated track, with one station lying underground. Commencing in Recto, the line follows a corridor defined by Claro M. Recto and Legarda Avenues, Ramon Magsaysay and Aurora Boulevards, and the Marikina Infanta Highway before reaching the other end of the line at Santolan. The system passes through the cities of Caloocan, Manila, Marikina, Pasig, Quezon City, and San Juan. Every day around 430,000 passengers board the LRT One, and 175,000 ride the LRT Two. During peak hours, the LRT One fields 24 trains. The time interval between the departure of one and the arrival of another, called headway, is a minimum of 3 minutes. The LRT Two runs 12 trains with a minimum headway of 5 minutes. With the proper upgrades, the yellow line is designed to potentially run with headway as low as 1.5 minutes. The LRT Two can run with headway as low as 2 minutes with throughput of up to 60,000 passengers per hour per direction. In conjunction with the MRT3, also known as the New Yellow Line, a similar but separate metro rail system operated by the private Metro Rail Transit Corporation. The system provides the platform for the vast majority of rail travel in the Metro Manila area. Together with the PN, the three constitute the SRTs. Recto and Doroteo Jose serve as the sole interchange between both lines of the LRTA. Araneta Center Cubao and EDSA stations serve as interchanges between the LRTA and the MRTC networks. To transfer lines, passengers will need to exit from the station there and then pass through covered walkways connecting the stations. Blumentritt LRT station meanwhile is immediately above its PNR counterpart. Baclaran Central Terminal and Monumento are the LRT1 S3 terminal stations. Recto, Araneta Center Cubao, and Santolan of the terminal stations on the LRT2. All of them are located on and near major transport routes where passengers can take other forms of transportation such as privately run buses and jeepneys to reach their ultimate destination both within Metro Manila and in neighboring provinces. The system has two depots. The LRT1 uses the Pasay Depot LRTA headquarters in Pasay, near Baclaran Station, while the LRT2 uses the Santolan Depot built by Sumitomo in Pasig. The LRT1 and LRT2 are open every day of the year from 5 a.m. PST until 10 p.m. on weekdays, and from 5 a.m. until 9:30 p.m. on weekends, except when changes have been announced. Notice of special schedules is given through press releases, via the public address system in every station, and on the LRTA website. History. The system's roots date back to 1878, when an official from Spain's Department of Public Works for the Philippines submitted a proposal for a Manila streetcar system. The system proposed was a 5-line network emanating from Plaza San Gabriel in Binondo, running to Intramuros, Malate, Malacañang Palace, Sampaloc and Tondo. The project was approved and in 1882, Spanish businessman Jacobo Zobaldez Angron, Spanish engineer Luciano M. Bremen, and Spanish banker Adolfo Bayo founded the Compañía de los Tranvías de Filipinas to operate the concession granted by the Spanish colonial government. The Malacañang Palace line was later replaced with a line linking Manila to Malabon, and construction began in 1885. 4 German-made steam-operated locomotives and 8 coaches for 9 passengers each composed the initial assets of the company. The Manila-Malabon line was the first line of the new system to be finished, opening to the public on October 20, 1888, with the rest of the network opening in 1889. For the beginning it proved to be a very popular line, with services originating from Tondo as early as 5:30 a.m. and ending at 7:30 p.m., while trips from Malabon were from 6 o'clock a.m. until 8 o'clock p.m. every hour on the hour in the mornings, and every half hour beginning at 1:30 p.m. in the afternoon. With the American takeover of the Philippines, the Philippine Commission allowed the Manila Electric Railroad and Light Company to take over the properties of the Compañía de los Tranvías de Filipinas, with the first of 12 mandated electric tranvía lines operated by Meralco opening in Manila in 1905. At the end of the first year, around 63 kilometers of track had been laid. A 5-year reconstruction program was initiated in 1920, and by 1924, 170 cars service many parts of the city and its outskirts. Although it was an efficient system for the city's 220,000 inhabitants, by the 1930s the streetcar network had stopped expanding. The system was closed during World War II. By the war's end, the tram network was damaged beyond repair amid a city that lay in ruins. It was dismantled and jeepneys became the city's primary form of transportation, plying the routes once served by the tram lines. With the return of buses and cars to the streets, traffic congestion became a problem. In 1966, the Philippine government granted a franchise to Philippine Monorail Transport Systems for the operation of an inner-city monorail. The monorail's feasibility was still being evaluated when the government asked the Japan International Cooperation Agency to conduct a separate transport study. Prepared between 1971 and 1973, the JICA study proposed a series of circumferential and radial roads, an inner-city rapid transit system, a commuter railway, and an expressway with 3 branches. After further examination, many recommendations were adopted. However, none of them involved rapid transit, and the monorail was never built. The MTS franchise subsequently expired in 1974. Another study was performed between 1976 and 1977, this time by Freeman Fox and Associates and funded by the World Bank. It originally suggested a street-level railway, but its recommendations were revised by the newly formed Ministry of Transportation and Communications. The ministry instead called for an elevated system because of the city's many intersections. However, the revisions increased the price of the project from 1.5 billion pesos to 2 billion pesos. A supplementary study was conducted and completed within 3 months. President Ferdinand Marcos created the Light Rail Transit Authority on July 12, 1980, by virtue of Executive Order No. 603, giving birth to what was then dubbed the Metrorail. First Lady Imelda Marcos, then Governor of Metro Manila and Minister of Human Settlements, became its first chairman. Although responsible for the operations of the Lrt One and Lrt Two, the LRTA primarily confined itself to setting and regulating fares, planning extensions and determining rules and policies, leaving the day-to-day operations to a sister company of Meralco called the Meralco Transit Organization. Initial assistance for the project came in the form of a 300 million pesos soft loan from the Belgian government, with an additional 700 million pesos coming from a consortium of companies comprising SAR Ateliers to Constructions Electriques de Charleroi and BN Constructions Ferroviaires et Métalliques, Tractional Engineering International and Transurb Consult. Although expected to pay for itself from revenues within 20 years of the start of operation, it was initially estimated that the system would lose money until at least 1993. For the first year of operation, despite a projected 365 million pesos in gross revenue, losses of 216 million pesos were thought likely. Construction of the Lrt Line One started in September 1981, with the Construction and Development Corporation of the Philippines as the contractor, with assistance from Leasing, a Swiss firm, and the Philippine subsidiary of Dravo, an American firm. The government appointed Electrowatt Engineering Services of Zurich to oversee construction and eventually became responsible for the extension studies of future expansion projects. The line was test run in March 1984, and the first half of Lrt One, from Baclaran to Central Terminal, was opened on December 1, 1984. The second half, from Central Terminal to Monumento, was opened on May 12, 1985. Overcrowding and poor maintenance took its toll a few years after opening. In 1990, the Lrt One fell so far into disrepair due to premature wear and tear that trains headed to Central Terminal Station had to slow to a crawl to avoid further damage to the support beams below as cracks reportedly began to appear. The premature aging of Lrt One led to an extensive refurbishing and structural capacity expansion program with the help of Japan.So.The. For the next few years Lrt One operations ran smoothly. In 2000, however, employees of Metro Inc. went on strike, paralyzing Lrt One operations from July 25 to August 2, 2000. Consequently, the LRTA did not renew its operating contract with Metro Inc. that expired on July 31, 2000, and assumed all operational responsibility. At around 12:15 p.m. on December 30, 2000, a bomb, later learned to have been planted by Islamic terrorists, went off in the front coach of a Lrt One train pulling into Blumentritt station, killing 11 and injuring over 60 people in the most devastating of a series of attacks that day, now known as the Rizal Day bombings, with Japan.So.The. amounting to 75 billion yen in total. The construction of the Lrt Line 2 began in the 1990s, and the first section of the line, from Santolan to Araneta Center Cubeo, was opened on April 5, 2003. The second section, from Araneta Center Cubeo to Lagada, was opened exactly a year later, with the entire line being fully operational by October 29, 2004. During that time the Lrt One was modernized. Automated fare collection systems using magnetic stripe plastic tickets were installed. Air-conditioned trains added. Pedestrian walkways between Lines 1, 2, and MRT3 lines completed. In 2005, the LRTA made a profit of 68 million pesos, the first time the agency made a profit since the Lrt One became operational in 1984. On September 12, 2015, Light Rail Manila Corporation, a joint venture company of Metro Pacific's Metro Pacific Light Rail Corporation, Ayala Corporation's AC Infrastructure Holdings Corporation, and the Philippine Investment Alliance for Infrastructure's Macquarie Infrastructure Holdings Pte. Limited, started a 32-year concession for the operation and maintenance of Lrt Line One and the construction of a 65 billion pesos extension project to Bacoor, Cavite stations. With the exception of Katipunan, the LRTA's 31 stations are elevated. They follow one of two different layouts. Most Lrt One stations are composed of only one level, accessible from the street below by stairway, containing the station's concourse and platform areas separated by fare gates. The boarding platforms measure 100 meters long and 3.5 meters wide. Baclaran, Central Terminal, Carriedo, Balintawak, Roosevelt and North Avenue stations on the Lrt One, and all Lrt Two stations are composed of two levels, a lower concourse level and an upper platform level. Fare gates separate the concourse level from the stairs and escalators that provide access to the platform level. All stations have side platforms except for Baclaran, which has one side and one island platform, and Santolan, which has an island platform. The concourse area at LRTA stations typically contain a passenger assistance office, ticket purchasing areas, and at least one stall that sells food and drinks. Terminal stations also have a public relations office. Stores and ATMs are usually found at street level outside the station, although there are instances where they can be found within the concourse. Some stations, such as Monumento, Libertad and Araneta Center Cubeo, are directly connected to shopping malls. LRT2 stations have 2 restrooms, but LRT1 restrooms have been the subject of criticism not only because of the provisioning of a single washroom at each station expected to serve all passengers, but also because of the impression that the lavatories are poorly maintained and unsanitary. Originally, the Lrt Line One was not built with accessibility in mind. This is reflected in the LRT1's lack of barrier-free facilities such as escalators and elevators. It is also inconvenient in other ways. For one, because of the use of side platforms, passengers wishing to access the other platform for the train bound in the opposite direction at single-level LRT1 stations need to exit the station and pay a new fare. The newer Lrt Line 2, unlike its counterpart, is designed to be barrier-free and allows seamless transfer between platforms. Built by a joint venture between Hanjin and Itochu, LRT2 stations have wheelchair ramps, braille markings, and path-finding embossed flooring leading to and from the boarding platforms in addition to escalators and elevators. In cooperation with the Philippine Daily Inquirer, copies of the Inquirer Libre, a free, tabloid-size, Tagalog version of the Inquirer broadsheet, are available at selected LRTA stations from 6 a.m. until the supply runs out. Rolling stock. 4 types of rolling stock run on the system, with 3 types used on the Lrt Line 1 and another used on the Lrt Line 2. The Lrt Line 1 railway cars were made either in Belgium by La Bourgeoisie Nivelle, South Korea by Hyundai Precision and Adtrans, or Japan by Kinki Sharyo and Nippon Sharyo. The Lrt Line 2, unlike the Lrt Line 1, runs heavy rail metro cars made in South Korea by Hyundai Rotemont provided by the Asia-Europe MRT Consortium led by Marubeni Corporation that have higher passenger capacity and maximum speed. All 4 types of rolling stock are powered by electricity supplied through overhead wires. Of the 2 LRT lines, the Lrt Line 2 prominently employs wrap advertising in its rolling stock. The Lrt Line 1 have begun using wrap advertising as well initially for the second-generation trains, followed by the third-generation trains. Lrt Line 1. The Lrt Line 1 at various stages in its history has used the 2-car, 3-car, and 4-car train. The 2-car trains are the original first-generation BN trains. Most were transformed into 3-car trains, although some 2-car trains remain in service. The 4-car trains are the more modern second-generation Hyundai Precision and Adtrans and third-generation Kinki Sharyo, Nippon Sharyo trains. There are 139 railway cars grouped into 40 trains serving the line. 63 of these are first-generation cars, 28 second-generation, and 48 third-generation. One train car was severely damaged in the Rizalde bombings and was subsequently decommissioned. The maximum speed of these cars is 80 km per hour. As part of the second phase of expansion on the Yellow Line, 12 new trains made in Japan by Kinki Sharyo and provided by the Manila Tren Consortium were shipped in the third quarter of 2006 and went into service in the first quarter of 2007. The new air-conditioned trains have boosted the capacity of the line from 27,000 to 40,000 passengers per hour. per direction. Lrt Line 2. The Lrt Line 2 fleet runs 18 heavy rail 4-car trains with lightweight stainless car bodies and 1,500-volt electric motors. They have a top speed of 80 km per hour and usually take around 30 minutes to journey from one end of the line to the other. Each train measures 3.2 meters wide and 92.6 meters long, allowing a capacity of 1,628 passengers, 232 seated and 1,396 standing. 20 sliding doors beside facilitate quick entry and exit. The line's trains also feature air conditioning, driverless automatic train operation from the Operations Control Center in Santolan, low noise control, enabled electric and regenerative braking, and closed-circuit television inside the trains. Special open spaces and seats are designated for wheelchair users and elderly passengers, and automatic next station announcements are made for the convenience of passengers, especially for the blind. Safety and security. The system has always presented itself as a safe system to travel on, and despite some incidents, a World Bank paper prepared by Halcro deemed the running of metro rail transit operations overall as good. Safety notices in both English and Tagalog are a common sight at the stations and inside the trains. Security guards with megaphones can be seen at boarding areas asking crowds to move back from the warning tiles at the edge of platforms to avoid falling onto the tracks. In the event of emergencies or unexpected events aboard the train, alerts are used to inform passengers about the current state of the operations. The LRT uses 3 alerts, codes blue, yellow, and red. Smoking, previously banned only at station platforms and inside trains, has been banned at station concourse areas since June 24, 2008. Hazardous chemicals, such as paint and gasoline, as well as sharp-pointed objects that could be used as weapons, are forbidden. Full-sized bicycles and skateboards are also not allowed on board the train, although the ban on folding bicycles was lifted on November 8, 2009. Those under the influence of alcohol may be denied entry into the stations. In response to the Rizal Day bombings, a series of attacks on December 30, 2000 that included the bombing of a Lrt One train among other targets, and in the wake of greater awareness of terrorism following the September 11 attacks, security has been stepped up on board the system. The Philippine National Police has a special police force assigned at Lrt One and Lrt Two, and security police provided by private companies are assigned to all stations, with each having a designated head guard. Closed-circuit televisions have been installed to monitor stations and keep track of suspicious activities, to better prepare for and improve response to any adverse incidents. Drills simulating terror attacks and earthquakes have been conducted. It is standard practice for bags to be inspected upon entry into stations by guards equipped with handheld metal detectors. Those who refuse to submit to such inspection may be denied entry. Since May 1, 2007, the LRTA has enforced a policy against making false bomb threats, a policy already enforced at airports nationwide. Those who make such threats can face penalties in violation of Presidential Decree No. 1727, as well as face legal action. Posted notices on station walls and inside trains remind passengers to be careful and be wary of criminals who may take advantage of the crowding aboard the trains. To address concerns of inappropriate contact on crowded trains, the first coach of Yellow Line trains have been designated for females only.